So let's head to Penfold's Magill Estate, where tonight's gather round welcome dinner is being staged. It is our tradition now on this night to have the Premier and the Chief Executive of the AFL together. Peter Malinauskas, it's great to have you back on 360. Andrew Dillon, welcome, AFL Chief Executive.
Yeah, great to be here in Adelaide.
Is it all in readiness, Premier?
It absolutely is, Jared. Look, there's a buzz around the state at the moment. Like the weather this weekend, I would have liked a bit of rain actually because we're in drought. But the weather this weekend, the sun is going to be out. The Norwood Food and Wine Festival, I think, will be even bigger than last year. But of course, the thing we're really excited about is a whole new venue for gather round, and that's the Barossa, and it looks a treat. And we can't wait to see how that comes up on Saturday and Sunday.
How well is it coming together, Andrew?
Yeah, well, I mean, the government and the council out in the Barossa have done an incredible amount of work to get the venue up to scratch. I was there almost a year ago and it looked like just a good country ground, and now it's going to be the 51st venue to ever host an AFL VFL game, and yeah, can't wait for the game on Saturday. But you know, Thursday night, a great start with Adelaide Geelong as well. Really looking forward to kicking off Gather Round 3 in style.
Premier, you've set a high bar in the first two iterations of Gather Round. Why is it going to be bigger and better this time round?
Look, the new venue, I think, makes a big difference, Gary. But look, the truth is, the state government and the AFL put a lot of effort into Gather Round, but we don't make it. The truth is, it's not even South Australian fans that make it, although they're pretty bloody important. The people who make Gather Round are all the people that travel across the border. And I was on the phone to the CEO of the airport. They've got 33% more people landing in Adelaide over the course of the weekend for this year's Gather Round versus last year, which was bigger than the year before that. So the trajectory and momentum of Gather Round, it's a juggernaut at the moment. So more people means more atmosphere, bigger crowds in other parts outside of footy ground. So the atmosphere between the bounce around the Barossa project, the Norwood Food and Wine Festival, and what's happening down the footy festival that the AFL's really invested in heavily this year, we're pretty bullish that it'll be impossible if you're in Adelaide not to know that something unique is going on. It's more than just 18 teams in one city, one state. It's 18 teams and a lot of fans in their city in one state. And that brings an edge to it that we're pretty confident only continues the momentum into the future.
And Dill's a decision to go to the Barossa. We had the Mayor last night and we understand how big and important it is, but to have him on and to see him get almost emotional about the prospect speaks to the embracing and inclusive nature of Gather Round, and that decision is I think, going to pay off in spades.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely, Gary. And, you know, Bim and his team, they took up, the Premier put it on, and it was a big thing that we were asking, and they've just taken on that task and just done an incredible amount of work. And I think the most pleasing thing, though, for us is it'll be an iconic venue that all of Australia will get to see on Saturday and Sunday when we see Gold Coast play North and then Richmond play Freo. But what it also does is leads a great legacy for boys and girls, men and women in the Barossa, for them to play footy, cricket, and then on the second oval, which will be set up for little athletics, there's netball courts, tennis courts. So it's just an incredible venue that leaves a great legacy. And that's one of the great things about Gather Round, and that's why I think it's worked so well. The fans have got behind it, but there's everlasting legacy also for the people of South Australia.
Notwithstanding you're standing next to the Premier of the state, Andrew, is South Australia the perfect venue for Gather Round?
Well, the Gather Round 1 and 2 were incredible. I think when we didn't have expectations, they surpassed them. And then, but this iteration, we've got 7 of the 9 games already sold out. We've got only a handful of tickets left for the 2 games at Adelaide Oval on Saturday. The people flying in and driving in from Victoria are just coming in droves. So it ticks a lot of boxes, and having an iconic venue like Adelaide Oval that you can be the centrepiece of Gather Round, it's so important, it's so accessible, but also the romance of a venue like Norwood where we'll have 2 really crucial games over the weekend as well. It ticks a lot of boxes.
How many more years would you like to do, Premier, on this deal?
As absolutely Look, we got $90 million. Sorry, let me rephrase it. It's not as good as it sounds, Andrew. if Andrew wasn't listening, I'd be saying we had $90 million of economic activity in the state last year. So, and that number was up. And I think it's impossible that number doesn't grow this year just because of so many more people coming into the state. So, the economics speaks for itself. But I want to touch on what Andrew said, because I actually think the power of this event transcends the 3 or 4 days that it lasts. The power of this event is South Australia getting to tell its story to the rest of the country. That platform's important to us as we see our economic trajectory outperforming the rest of the country, which is important to living standards. But even more importantly than that, one of the big passions I've got is getting kids off phones and screens. Like, I understand how it happens, but nothing beats kids engaging with one another, and any format that allows for that is a good thing. Now, at the Barossa, we've invested that money. It'll put a lot of attention on the Barossa, which is good for tourism. But the other 51 weeks of the year, kids have got tennis courts, footy fields, cricket fields, little athletics fields in a world-class facility. Now, what's wrong with that? Nothing, I assert. Because if you're going to get kids off phones, you've got to give them something else to do, which means governments have got to invest in it.
Premier, did you request as a good port man the Power Hawks grudge match to be the main event of Gather Round?
Well, I think it was we discussed it because we were sitting next to each other at the Port Hawks game in the final last year, which was it was a belting game of footy. Like, it was an extraordinary game of footy, and I'm not just saying that because my team won. Like, everyone acknowledged it was outstanding, and then the controversy happened. But even before the controversy, we spoke about. Imagine this bookending Gather Round last year, and to Dills and the team in the AFL was great credit. They made that happen, so I think that's a good thing. It's a sellout crowd at Adelaide Oval on a Sunday night, so it's massive. It's a huge game for my team. We need to pull something out of the box to beat the Hawks who are flying. But I like the way it's finishing, and if you can generate momentum of its own with a new rivalry, why wouldn't you capitalise on it? So I think the AFL has done a good thing here.
I can't believe I'm asking a politician this question, Premier, but you a fan of the succession plan that's been put in place?
Yeah, Gary, I'd like to say you're the first that asked me that, but look. I think the club is as best as it can dealing with like a good problem. Is a politician's answer for you. You ask a politician a question,
You're such a straight talking politician, though, Premier. Until this moment.
I know, but I value unity, right? So look, here's what I'll say. Let's see how let's see how this season goes, right? So a couple of years ago, Port got off to a horror start, and then we ended up playing in a prelim final. So just. Our backs against the wall, down at Port Adelaide, that's just the way we like it. So let's see how it plays out.
We might back over that on Friday morning. Hey, Dills, while I've got your State of Origin, have you advanced discussions? Is it the potential of it becoming more of a reality? Have you got a plan for it?
Look, it's something that we are talking about. We've got all of our club CEOs in town for Friday, and that's on the agenda for us to talk about there. I think for any form of representative football, what we need to do is come up with something that the players want to be involved in and really get behind them. We saw that with the All-Stars game in Perth earlier this year, where the players were right into it, the clubs got involved, and then the fans followed and people watched it in droves. So that's what we're going to work through with our clubs and then the players. But I think there is an opportunity at the right time of the calendar for a form of representative football to come back.
Do you want that too, Premier? South Australia versus Victoria for the first time in a generation here?
Look, I'm not one to be greedy, but yes.
I
think it's a good thing. I love that the discussion about State of Origin is happening and that the AFL is putting a bit of work into it. Because as a kid growing up, I remember the enthusiasm and passion that State of Origin brought out, and I hate the idea that my kids will never see it. So if they can make it happen, I'm all for it.
We're not putting pressure on him, but Basil Zemplis has just texted you on his phone. I know he's not in any position of power just yet, but they would take it in a heartbeat over there, Jared.
Don't let it out of here. Premier, is it true that the same tactics you used to win Gather Round during Grand Final week, you used on Katy Perry to get her concerts here in Adelaide?
That was. The short answer is yes, but it was a bit weird because I didn't go to. I went to the grand final as a guest of Andrews with my number one objective the first year I went was gather round, and every year since has been about an extension. So I walked away. I walked in hoping to convince Andrew to get gather round extended beyond 26, and I walked away with a Katy Perry concert. Now for me that was a disastrous result, but for a lot of for another demographic it was a win. So. You're going to take the opportunities when they come, and we'll keep that approach going.
Sold out for sure. If there's anyone who can get Kenny his 20 grand back, Premier, it's you.
Yeah, well, now that's a cause I'm willing to take up. It's just a modicum of this ticket sales that the AFL is generating at a Sunday night. There's a refund there to Kenny that might be fair, but that's not going to come anytime soon.
I'd love to sit just behind you at the footy and hear the conversations as they unfold. It's great to have you both with us. It's great to be in town. Good luck for Gather Round, and thanks for your time as always on 360.
Thank you for having us on board. Cheers.